Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Madam Secretary. Look, to reduce global CO2, the administration has been calling for zero carbon emissions from American power plants by 2035. And in testimony to Congress, John Kerry stated that CO2 levels greater than 350 parts per million are dangerous. So my question, can you guarantee me that the Biden plan will lower global emissions to less than 350 parts per million?
Well, what I can guarantee you is that us getting back into the Paris Agreement...
No, it's just a yes or no, please, Madam Secretary. Can you guarantee me that we'll get below 350?
I'm not in the business of guaranteeing.
Okay, thank you. So let me run through just a series of observations then. The Institute for Energy Research and others have testified that the residential utility rates are expected to increase skyrocket to $2,000 to $4,000 if we rely totally on 100% renewables. And if we shut down all the coal and natural gas power plants by 2035, entire communities will be hollowed out. Millions of jobs are going to be lost in the transition. Tax revenues for schools, hospitals, and first responders are going to be slashed. Children and families are going to suffer. Experts have testified before this very committee that extreme weather events will still occur unless China and India decrease their emissions. And speaking to John Kerry, just last week before Foreign Affairs, he warned us that trusting China to lower their emissions would be, quote, stupid and malpractice. So let me get this straight. Utility bills are going to go up. Our neighbors are going to lose their jobs. Our schools will lose funding. We will still have extreme weather events. The CO2 in the atmosphere will still be dangerously high. And Kerry says we can't trust China, the worst polluter, to lower its emissions. So it appears to me that this administration is willing to make sacrificial lambs out of coal miners, pipeliners, gas workers, just to fit his political and liberal ideology. So, Madam Secretary, if you think America would be providing global leadership that you were starting to hint at, that's naive. The rest of the world is not following, and you know that. In fact, China just announced a few weeks ago that they're building 250 gigawatts more of coal-fired power plants. That's the equivalent of all the coal-fired power plants we have in America. And they're also announcing that they're building 20 new coal-fired power plants in Africa. So what are you doing? If this is the administration's definition of environmental justice, you're ignoring reality. So let me pivot then, Madam Secretary. According to the McKinsey report, people will be moving around the cities, moving into cities around the globe at a rate of 1 million people per week from now until 2050. And these people are going to need places to live and work. If the Paris Accord discourages or prohibits the production of concrete, plastic, steel, and aluminum because of their CO2 emissions, and they discourage us from harvesting trees because that is such an obvious sink for our environmental contributions, what do we have left? Straw? Mud? Clay? I mean, according to the Professor Goldthorpe at MIT, in responding to the study, he said the most logical material available to meet these demands are products derived from fossil fuels. And these products were being pursued under the Trump administration's, quote, coal to products program. But last month, the DOE at the National Coal Council meeting, Jennifer Wilcox of DOE said you would not be pursuing coal to products. So, Madam Secretary, I've got to say, if McKinsey and MIT are correct, how will we meet this global need for construction material if we don't use fossil fuels? Can you elaborate?
I can. So that was a lot, and let me take pieces of it. Number one, we are interested in using coal ash and coal waste to extract critical minerals. We think there's an opportunity there, and in fact, the National Energy Technology Laboratory is working on just that. The head of the National Energy Technology Laboratory, you probably know, is Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson has been put in charge of a coal and power plant communities work group because this administration is so focused on making sure that West Virginia, Appalachia, coal regions get the benefit of this movement of the globe toward clean energy technologies. There is a $23 trillion market for products that reduce CO2 emissions. West Virginia can be at the front and center of that. West Virginia can be a place where coal miners are actually installing the carbon
Madam
capture.
Secretary, if I could, I know our time's run out. Don't just tell me.
Gentlemen's
Show me.
time is expired.
Thank you.
The gentleman's time is expired. The chair now